The Lost Hiker's Diary. On September 3, 1985, 5 spirited hikers, Lucy Harlow, Mark Jensen, Jenny Mills, Brian Turner, and Sarah Green, embarked on what was supposed to be a memorable expedition into the Blackwood Forest of Washington. Their plan was to traverse the dense woods, experience nature at its purest, and strengthen the bond of their friendship. As days turned into nights and nights into days, the vast expanse of the forest became their home, each tree a landmark, each sound a story. However, 3 days into their journey, only one hiker emerged from the forest's embrace. On the morning of September 6th, Lucy Harlow stumbled back to the trailhead, her clothes torn, eyes wild with terror, and her voice reduced to mere incoherent mumblings. Gone was the vibrant energy she had set out with. In its place was a haunting vacancy that sent chills down the spines of those who found her. Rescue teams were immediately dispatched, combing every inch of the known trails, searching for the other 4 members of the group. But the forest, with its towering trees and winding paths, held on to its secrets tightly. Every lead turned into a dead end, every sound a false alarm. As the hours turned into days, the hope of finding the missing hikers began to wane. The local community, familiar with the forest's eerie legends, whispered about the cursed heart of Blackwood, where many had ventured but few returned. Among Lucy's belongings, a diary was discovered. It was hoped that its pages would shed light on the mystery, revealing what happened during those fateful days inside the forest. Little did they know the diary would only deepen the enigma, taking all who read it on a chilling journey into the unknown. The diary, bound in worn leather and clasped with a rusted buckle, seemed almost ordinary at first glance. But as the pages were turned, the weight of its contents became palpable. Lucy's elegant handwriting chronicled the expedition from its hopeful beginning, painting a vivid picture of their journey. The initial entries were filled with joy and wonder. September 3, 1985, the forest greeted us with open arms today. The chirping of the birds, the rustle of the leaves, the fresh aroma of pine. It's everything I imagined and more, Lucy wrote. The group's camaraderie was evident, with mentions of shared jokes, evening campfire stories, and the dreams they held for the future. By the second day, the tone shifted subtly. September 4, 1985. The beauty of Blackwood is undeniable, but there's an eeriness that lingers in the shadows. At times I feel as though we're not alone, as though the forest is watching, waiting. Despite this, the group's spirits remained high. There were descriptions of the breathtaking vistas they encountered, the unique flora and fauna they documented, and the challenges they overcame together. The diary became more than just a record. It was Lucy's confidante. Through her words, one could feel the group's bond strengthening, their trust in one another deepening, and yet amidst the tales of adventure, there were hints of unease, whispers of strange sounds at night, fleeting shadows that didn't belong, and a growing feeling of being pursued. The entry dated September 5, 1985, however, marked a distinct change. Lucy wrote of discovering an old, dilapidated cottage deep within the woods. An unexpected find, a relic of a time long past, but something about it feels off. The next pages held an account that would send chills down the spine of even the bravest souls. September 5, 1985. As the shadows grew longer and the sun began its descent, the group stumbled upon an unexpected sight. A cottage, its once white walls now stained with age and neglect, standing defiantly against the encroaching forest. Ivy and moss crept up its sides, and shattered windows stared blankly, like the hollow eyes of a long-forgotten soul. Jenny, always the curious one, was the first to approach. "It's like something out of a fairy tale," she whispered, her voice tinged with both wonder and unease. The front door, barely hanging on its hinges, creaked open to reveal an interior trapped in time. Dust-covered furniture, faded photographs, and remnants of a life once lived were strewn about, bearing silent testimony to the cottage's history. Yet, amidst the decay, there was an unsettling air of preservation. A table was set with porcelain dishes, as if waiting for guests who never arrived. A fireplace, though cold, held remnants of charred logs, hinting at warmth that had long since vanished. As night approached, the group debated their next move. Brian, ever the pragmatic one, argued for staying the night. "It's shelter," he said, "and we won't find anything better before dark." Mark and Sarah, however, felt an innate desire to move on, sensing an invisible weight in the air. But Lucy's diary revealed her own internal conflict. The cottage feels like both a sanctuary and a trap. Every fiber of my being tells me to flee, but where would we go in this growing darkness? The decision was made to stay, a decision that would come to haunt their dreams. As they settled in, the night enveloped the cottage, and with it came an oppressive silence, punctuated only by the occasional, distant whisper of the forest. The veil of night draped heavily over the cottage, transforming its benign appearance into an ominous silhouette against the moonlit forest. Inside, the hikers sought refuge in the remnants of what once was a home, the dim glow of their lanterns casting eerie shadows on the walls. Lucy's entry for that night was tinged with dread. September 5, 1985. Night. The darkness here is different, more consuming. We've tried to keep our spirits up, sharing stories and laughter, but an unspoken tension lingers among us. As the hours ticked by, one by one, the group surrendered to fatigue. But sleep, which should have been their escape, became their tormentor. Each member was plunged into a realm of nightmares, so vivid and horrifying that the line between dream and reality blurred. Mark dreamt of being chased through the forest by shadowy figures with hollow eyes, their whispers growing louder and more insistent. Jenny found herself in the cottage, but it was ablaze, and every exit led to another room filled with fire. Sarah was trapped in a never-ending corridor, doors on either side revealing glimpses of past traumas and fears. Brian stood in a clearing surrounded by faceless onlookers judging him in silence. Lucy's own dream was the most chilling. She stood alone in the heart of the forest, watching as her friends vanished into the trees, their screams echoing in the distance. A figure, neither fully human nor beast, approached her, its voice a haunting lullaby promising both solace and doom. When dawn finally broke, the group awoke, drenched in sweat and terror. Their shared experiences of the night, though varied in detail, held a common thread of foreboding. The once sanctuary of the cottage now felt like a prison, and the forest outside, once a realm of adventure, seemed to hide malevolent secrets in its depths. September 1995. The morning sun filtered weakly through the dense canopy, casting a muted glow over the cottage. But the light did little to dispel the lingering shadows of the night's terrors. The group, now bound by their shared nightmares, moved with a palpable unease, their laughter and camaraderie replaced by hushed tones and wary glances. After a hurried breakfast, they decided to leave the unsettling confines of the cottage behind. As they packed, Mark and Jenny, drawn by a distant sound or perhaps a morbid curiosity, ventured a short distance away, towards a meandering stream. The forest, with its twisted trees and deceptive serenity, watched them go. Time, in its cruel trickery, seemed to stretch and warp. Minutes felt like hours. Lucy, Brian, and Sarah, engrossed in their tasks, soon realized that the voices of their companions had faded. The once gentle whispers of the forest now seemed to mock them with a sinister undertone. Mark, Jenny. Lucy's calls went unanswered, her voice echoing hauntingly back at her. Panic set in. The three hikers, dropping their belongings, set off in the direction their friends had taken. But the forest, in its malevolent maze, offered no clues. Every tree looked the same. Every path led to another enigma. The diary detailed their frantic search, the desperation palpable in Lucy's hurried scribbles. The forest is playing tricks on us. Shadows dart between trees and distant whispers lead us in circles. Mark and Jenny have vanished, swallowed by this cursed land. Night approached once more, but the darkness was now more profound, more menacing. The group, reduced in number and spirit, had to face a harrowing truth. They were not alone in Blackwood Forest. Some malevolent force, ancient and insidious, was toying with them, drawing them deeper into its web of terror. September 7th, 1985. Dawn broke with an eerie stillness. The forest, once alive with nature's symphony, now hummed with a malevolent silence that pressed heavily on the souls of the remaining hikers. The weight of Mark and Jenny's inexplicable disappearance bore down on them, its shadow darkening their hope. As they trekked through the seemingly endless maze of trees, Lucy noted the changes in the group's dynamics. "The forest has sunk its claws into us," she wrote. "Fear has shifted to paranoia. Trust is eroding, and the boundaries of reality are blurring." Brian, once the voice of reason, began to unravel. His once steady gaze darted nervously, and he often muttered to unseen presences. At one point, he stopped, staring intently at a nondescript patch of forest. "They're here, watching, waiting," he whispered, his voice quivering with a mix of fear and fascination. Sarah, trying to keep her own fears at bay, attempted to console him, but Brian's descent into madness was swift. He spoke of voices calling to him from the depths of the forest, of shadowy figures dancing just beyond his vision, and of an overpowering urge to join them. By midday, his behavior became increasingly erratic. He would alternate between bouts of hysterical laughter and moments of catatonic stillness. Then, in a sudden burst of frenzied energy, he tore away from the group, disappearing into the thick underbrush. Lucy and Sarah, paralyzed by shock, could only watch as the forest consumed him. Their attempts to follow were futile. Brian's trail vanished as if swallowed by the very earth. The diary's pages bore witness to Lucy's despair. "The forest is alive, hungry. It's not just land we traverse, but a conscious entity. We are its playthings and our minds its playground. How many more will it claim before we break free?" September 7th, 1985. Nightfall. The sun's last rays bade a crimson farewell, leaving Lucy and Sarah enveloped in a darkness so profound it felt tangible. The forest, in its predatory silence, seemed to tighten its grip on them, each shadow hinting at unspeakable horrors. With Brian's chilling departure fresh in their minds, the two women sought to stay close, their shared terror a bond stronger than any they had felt before. They made a feeble attempt at setting up camp, but sleep was a luxury neither dared to indulge in. Lucy's entry for that night was fragmented, a testament to her fractured state of mind. "The air is thick, suffocating. Every rustle, every breeze feels like a whisper, a taunt. Sarah's eyes mirror my own fear. We are prisoners in this vast, unending nightmare." As the hours wore on, the forest began to play its cruel tricks. Faint echoes of laughter, the distant sound of footsteps and ghostly apparitions appeared at the edge of their vision. The boundaries between reality and illusion grew indistinct. But the most harrowing event of the night was yet to come. In the pale glow of their dying lantern, Sarah's figure began to waver, her form shimmering as if caught between two realms. Lucy, paralyzed by a mix of dread and disbelief, could only watch as Sarah's screams pierced the night, her body dissolving into the ether, leaving no trace behind. The diary's final lines for that night were scrawled in a shaky hand. "Alone. The forest has taken them all. It beckons, tempts, teases. I must resist, must survive. But for how long can I defy its malevolent call?" September 8th, 1985. Dawn's first light pierced the forest canopy, casting an ethereal glow that offered a deceptive promise of safety. Lucy, now alone and on the brink of despair, was consumed by a singular, desperate thought: escape. Every tree, every sound was a potential threat. But the very forest that seemed to conspire against her also instilled a fierce determination to survive. The diary captured her fragmented thoughts. "Each step feels like a victory, a defiance against this cursed land. I must remember the way out, remember my friends, remember myself." As the day wore on, the forest's malevolence intensified. Phantom voices of her lost friends called out, urging Lucy to join them. Shadowy figures darted between trees, always just out of reach. But with every deceptive lure, Lucy's resolve hardened. The forest, sensing her resistance, played its final card. The landscape began to twist and warp, familiar paths turning into dead ends, clearings shifting and disappearing. Time lost meaning as Lucy found herself walking in circles, the forest's laughter echoing in her ears. But fate, or perhaps some lingering spirit of protection, intervened. Stumbling up on a stream she had noted earlier in her diary, Lucy followed its course, letting the water's flow guide her. Hours seemed like days, but the stream finally led her to the trailhead, the boundary between the forest's realm and the world she once knew. The diary's last entry, written with a hand that trembled with both exhaustion and relief, read, "I have emerged, but at what cost? The forest's shadows will forever haunt my dreams, but let this diary stand as a testament, a warning to the true nature of Blackwood Forest. And with that, Lucy's ordeal in the depths of the Blackwood came to an end, leaving behind a tale of horror, loss, and resilience. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Write in the comments what you think about this story.